So a couple of you guys have asked me to do a video about Jeffrey Epstein. Now, a couple of things to start. I don't know very much about Jeffrey Epstein, and I only talk about subjects that I know. I know a little bit from what I've read, like the Wall Street Journal or whatever. But I did get two interesting questions, which I actually can answer. Now, I'm in Virginia Beach right now. I'm on my paddle board. And I figure this is as good a chance as anyway, and at least I'm not ripping off Peter Zion. Now, Jeffrey Epstein was supposedly some kind of financier, although I believe it was Jim Cramer who said that he didn't ever see the guy make a trade, right? So this guy apparently owned a hedge fund that never actually made any trades. Nobody knows where he got his money to buy his properties and his private island. But apparently what this guy did was he had a private island and he would bring people to that private island, famous people or people who are tangentially famous scientists and such, bring them to his private island on a private jet and show them a good time with women of the younger persuasion. That's pretty much all I'm going to say about that, because God knows what YouTube would do with monetization if I actually told the whole story that we know. And then in 2019, he supposedly passed away in jail under suspicious circumstances, using another word that YouTube would demonetize me if I said it. Now, there are two questions that I am able to answer. The first question is, could Jeffrey Epstein have been running a spy ring where he gets famous people to come to his island and he compromises them and he gets them to spy for him? The second question is it possible that Russia could use this whole Epstein files scandal that's going on in the Trump White House to kind of split the Make America Great Again base and cause chaos in the United States? I can answer those two questions. So let's start with question number one. Now, for question one, I am not a human intelligence guy. I'm a cyber intelligence guy. Human intelligence is kind of its own animal. But I work in that world, so you learn a little bit of things. The way that human intelligence people flip their subjects is through an acronym called MICE. And MICE stands for money, ideology, compromise, and ego. Money is the easiest thing, right? I give you money, you give me secrets. There have been a lot of people who've done that. Just recently, there was a dude who sold secrets for secrets about submarines for like $90,000 in crypto. You know, he put the information about American submarines in a peanut butter sandwich and put it in the trash to be collected later. Like, you're a master criminal, dude. Real Lex Luthor. And I think the guy's going to be in jail for like 30 years for doing that. So money is easy, right? Everyone understands money. The second is ideology. Like, there are some people who are true believers. Just recently, there was a CIA analyst who back in 2024, he posted information about potential Israeli attacks on Iran on an Iranian Telegram forum, right? And of course he was caught, because we always catch him. And I think he's doing 36 months or something like that in federal prison. Then there is compromise. And compromise is where you catch someone having an affair, or you get someone addicted to drugs, or you get some sort of incriminating information about them, essentially blackmail. And that's actually one of the worst ways to gather intelligence, mainly because eventually the person you're blackmailing is going to get just so sick of it that they stop providing information. And the final is ego, all right? You look at someone like Tucker Carlson. You've been fired from every job you've ever had, right? And then someone from Russia comes to you and says, we'll give you an interview with Vladimir Putin, right? What are you going to say, right? So those are the four things: money, ideology, compromise, and ego. Now, there is another intelligence collection tool, and it's called elicitation. And elicitation is where you kind of get to know someone, you're friendly with that person, and you extract intelligence from them without them actually knowing you're doing it. So it could be you move into a new house and the neighbor says, what do you do? Oh, I work for Lockheed Martin. Oh, well, what do you do for Lockheed Martin? Well, I work on the F-35. And the guy goes, oh, well, you know, my daughter's doing a paper on the F-35. Can you talk to her about the stealth characteristics? I mean, nothing classified. And, you want to be friendly, right? So you say, yeah, of course I'll do it, right? And you might not give away any classified information, but you might reveal some secret that can later be put together in a mosaic of other open secrets that people have said. And that kind of gives a clue to the bad guy. The other way of doing elicitation is through, I call it the timeshare model. Again, I'm not a human intelligence guy. But when you go to like a timeshare presentation, they always treat you real nice, right? They feed you, they put you up in a nice hotel, stay at a nice resort, and then they give you the pitch, right? And you kind of feel bad refusing the timeshare, right? Because they did something for you, so you should do something for me. So the question here is, could Jeffrey Epstein have been running some sort of intelligence collection operation by compromising people? I don't think so, because compromise is one of the worst ways of getting information, because eventually people just say, screw you, I don't want to do this anymore, I don't care about the consequences, right? But what you can do is take them to your private island, show them a good time, and then if you ever need information, you give them a call, and you're their friend now, right? You say like, hey, hey, I was just wondering, you invented a new laser. Can you, why don't you fly to my island? I want to hear about this new laser. Maybe we can invest in your company, right? So I think that is probably what Jeffrey Epstein was doing. I don't know who was employing him. Like, boy, the sun is scorching here. Let me try to turn around a little bit. I don't know who was employing him. I don't know what their objective was, but what I believe is that Jeffrey Epstein's end goal was to essentially make friends with all these influential people and kind of gain favors with them, so that if they were ever needed for whatever reason, Jeffrey Epstein could access them and kind of call in that favor. So I think that was kind of the reason he existed. Now, the second item is, could Russia use the whole Epstein thing to kind of split the MAGA base? And that's where things kind of get interesting, right? The whole idea behind Russian election interference goes all the way back to 2011, when essentially Hillary Clinton said, I think it was at a conference in Estonia, she said that President Putin was a tyrant. And Putin didn't like that. He didn't like that one bit. And so he essentially vowed to make sure that Hillary Clinton never, ever, ever ran for president, right? And this goes back to Victor Prigozhin and the Internet Research Agency, where they tried to influence opinion on Facebook. They even tried to make kinetic actions happen, such as claiming there's a free hot dog giveaway in Times Square when there actually wasn't. And people actually showed up. And that's when it kind of clicked in Russian heads, like, oh my God, we really can affect the real world by using tools like the internet. So I don't know how much influence Russia had on the election, especially since at the time the Democrats were running a person whose campaign slogan might as well have been, "It's my turn, damn it," right? It wasn't that compelling of a candidate. But it probably had some sort of effect. I don't know if it would have had the same effect as if they ran a stronger candidate, but it had some effect. And one of the reasons that you've seen more conservative-leaning people have Russian opinions is that the infrastructure was already there, right? Why would you destroy that infrastructure and go over to try to influence Democrats, right? A little bit of that is happening with China and influence on environmental issues, because one thing China does not want is the United States opening up any more rare earth mines. So if you're some dude in Wyoming and you don't want trucks rolling through your neighborhood, and you start a grassroots organization to prevent a new mine from being opened in your small town because you don't want your town ruined, if someone from China hands you a $20,000 check to start your grassroots organization, what are you going to say, right? So the infrastructure is already there. And the infrastructure was there in the 2024 election, and the infrastructure was there when Russia invaded Ukraine. So it was just easier to leverage that infrastructure. So right now, what you do have is you do have some conservative or MAGA-leaning people who are getting a lot of their information from either Russian sources or Russian-influenced sources. And I would certainly say that since President Trump is not playing ball with Putin's plans for Ukraine, that there are elements inside of Russia that may certainly use the splits in the MAGA base to kind of create chaos. And one interesting thing is that it's kind of like live by the sword, die by the sword, because one of the reasons President Trump was able to get elected was from these Russian-influenced influencers. Not saying these people were paid by Russia, but they certainly were getting a lot of their information on Twitter or on TikTok or whatever from Russia. And they developed opinions that kind of Russia wanted them to espouse. And now that things aren't going their way in Ukraine, and Trump has developed a more Ukraine-positive approach to foreign policy, they might certainly create some sort of rift and use these influencers against each other. And that could just be as easy as gaining favor with some of these influencers and just feeding them better and more quality information. If you become a source to one of these influencers and you're feeding them information that all of a sudden becomes true, it increases the influencer's credibility. And is that influencer more or less likely to continue using their source, right? They're more likely, of course. So I certainly think that Russia could try to split the MAGA base just to cause chaos because they don't like what President Trump did. One more thing before I go. If you ever want to read an alternate history where President Trump actually ran as a Democrat in 2016, read my novel, The Last Republic. It's a book that's an alternate history about Mormon prophet Brigham Young founding the nation of Deseret instead of the state of Utah, and what happens 170 years later when the United States declares war. You can find that on Amazon, and you can find that on Audible if you're a Marine. Thank you guys for watching.
It's me, Captain Bannon of the documentary Team Yankee. When I'm not kicking commie butts, I'm wearing t-shirts from Ryan McBeth, available at Bunker Branding, Knife Hands, HIMARS, Landmines, Patriot, and even my favorite, the TOW missile. Mushna, we want t-shirt too! Take a hike, commie! So come on down to Bunker Branding and take a stand for what's really important about America. Capitalism!